So, Luke, you and Joseph first played Holmes and Watson in Blackeyed Theatre's The Sign of the Four a few years ago. You're now reprising your roles in the UK tour of The Valley of Fear, which is the last Arthur Conan Doyle Holmes and Watson novella. So, Luke, let's start with you. Where do we find Holmes and Watson in the start of The Valley of Fear?
I think things have changed for Holmes and Watson actually, because at the end of The Sign of Four, obviously Watson gets married to Mary Morstan, and we, in the short stories that occur between The Sign of Four and The Valley of Fear, we learn that actually Watson's obviously moved out of Baker Street, and he goes off and he sets up his own doctor's practice and lives with Mary, but does always seem to return to Baker Street. I think there's something like 10 or 15 short stories between Sign of Four and Valley of Fear. So there's something about the mysteries that they go on that just keeps attracting Watson back to Holmes and back to Baker Street. So we find, I think, Holmes and Watson who are separate, but this is New Year's Day 1875? 1895. It's New Year's Day. So I kind of think Watson's come over for Christmas, and
not gone home.
Not gone to see his wife. He's left his wife for Christmas and chosen to spend it with Holmes instead. And then so they get a mysterious coded message arrive in the post, warning them of some harm about to happen to a kind of country squire down in Sussex. And then from there, they embark on this mystery. So very quickly, they go back to what they know best, which is being their sort of crime-fighting, mystery-solving duo.
Oh, amazing. And I guess a coded mystery message is like the best Christmas present you could get these two.
Oh, yeah. Holmes loves it. Holmes is like, he's made up. I imagine Christmas is very boring for him. It's all very sentimental and wishy-washy, whereas, a mystery is like, yes, great, going to work. This is what I love.
Better than socks.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And speaking of which, so seeing if we get the dynamic duo back together after a little period of separation. Joseph, these are like two of the most iconic characters in literature, in anything really. How do you go about crafting that sort of relationship, especially given that you both played the characters before?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite I personally found it quite an easy process. When we first started rehearsals for The Sign of Four back in 2018, there was a lot of discussion about how the relationship between Holmes and Watson should be. And for me personally, everything I know is about Watson, and he was always portrayed as this, not always, but a lot of the time portrayed as this sort of buffoonish character, obviously not as intelligent as Holmes, but he is still quite an intelligent character. He's a medical man, he's a doctor. So I kind of feel that we wanted to try and push this this assistance relationship of where one person is incredibly intelligent, but their mind is kind of all over the place. And they just needed that one person who is Watson to channel it all through together. So yeah, that's how I kind of would see our relationship and how we kind of pressed on it in The Sign of Four. And of course, when The Valley of Fear came along, we kind of just slipped straight back into it. And it works quite well. We speak to each other when we're not performing in shows. Yeah. So it's nice that we like each other.
Yeah.
It does help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coral and Hardy, wasn't it? They hated each other secretly. Like, even they had this great on-screen chemistry, and I'm sure that they actually off-screen absolutely hated each other.
And
to talk.
No, and then Zach probably should say that.
You'd be acting right now, and I never know.
Yeah. They cover it so well.
So building off of a really strong foundation then from the work that you've done together, do you draw anything from any particular adaptations, or do you try and leave that in the past and you focus on this? How do they play into your process?
For me personally, I draw off the looks of Jude Law.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you very much. Not particularly. I'd never really seen a huge amount of Holmes and Watsons before. I know that's quite bad. I don't know if I've done a disservice there. No, I just kind of got it from the discussions that I had with Nick, the director and the writer. Obviously, I'd read the plays before doing the show itself, and yeah, I kind of tried to lead in more from the text than from another character that had been played before?
Yeah, I think I had read the stories, and I think for me, like probably a lot of people our age, I was sort of very excited by the BBC adaptation, the Benedict Cumberbatch version. I loved that, and as a result of that, went on and read the stories. And I think our performance and our production is very much rooted in the original stories and the world of Conan Doyle, and that BBC adaptation is a fabulous adaptation and a modernization of the stories, which is done with great reverence to the books, but I think the sort of Victorian world that Conan Doyle creates is actually quite key to our production. And I think for me, that was my inspiration as well, because I think there's something so quintessentially Victorian about Holmes. He's both very in the Victorian world, but also completely strange in terms of his behavior. He's very un-Victorian in lots of ways. So that was kind of where I first started.
And Holmes is sort of known for being quite a difficult character to get along with, difficult person to get along with, famously or infamously. How do you go about making him sympathetic? Do you go about making him sympathetic?
I don't actively try and make him sympathetic, no, because I think people love a bit of a rogue character, don't they? I think someone that just I think because Holmes doesn't care what other people think, and he probably does deep down, but I think certainly in the middle of a mystery, in terms of a case and the job that he's doing, which matters so much to him, I think he finds emotions and feelings just unhelpful, and that's why he's described as this unfeeling, unemotional machine. But obviously he isn't. He is a human being. I think he just has this incredible capacity to just be like, filter that out. That's not important. I don't care. It's about factors and equations and solving the puzzle. And that's intriguing because I think we're human beings. We care, even despite our best efforts. I think we care massively about what other people think about us all the time. I think it's interesting as actors, we're constantly, we spend every night standing in front of people getting judged by them. In order to get work, you go into rooms and get judged by people. You are always under that sort of spotlight of what other people think about you and what you do and whatever. So I think it's really refreshing to have a character that just can switch that off, just like, don't care. It's not important because this is what I need to do. And I think that's very exciting for people even now.
And when you're actually bringing this onto the stage, so a lot of things we've seen with Sherlock, they're films, they're TV shows, there's lots of different things going on. The stage must be a very particular kind of medium for Holmes and Watson to kind of do their mystery solving in. How do you think this story is suited for that particular medium?
Well, I think the Victorian literature is so inherently melodramatic and very theatrical. I think it lends itself more to the stage than it does to the TV, personally. I think there's something about the very big characters and the very dramatic kind of events of these stories, particularly the Valley of Fear, that just lend themselves to a theatre storytelling than they do a TV storytelling. Because I think despite the limitations of the theatre, I think audiences expect more, or at least we go on a bigger imaginative leap. The uniqueness of theatre is our ability as actors with an audience all sitting down together and going, we're going to pretend that we're these people and you're going to pretend that we are as well. And when you chuck in these big characters, not just Holmes and Watson, but in the Valley of Fear, we've got gangsters and murderers, big characters and big dramatic events. I think it's really exciting for an audience in a theatre because it allows that imagination to run wild.
I think it also adds to a murder mystery in general, because it's kind of a more of a claustrophobia style feeling where you've got a mystery and there's 200-300 people watching you and expecting or not expecting what's going to happen in the immediacy of time, you know, in the next hour, in the next hour and a half. And certainly, you know, some of the venues that we've been to in the past really add to that, when you can see the audience on the front row. We kind of have a floor rolled out, and when they're on the edge of that floor, it really does add the pressure of a mystery, of trying to solve a mystery. Even though we've done it, you know, 160, 170 times, it's still exciting, unraveling the parcel as we go.
They're trying to solve it with us. I think that's the thing as well. Holmes and Watson are solving the mystery at the same time as the audience, and that's what makes it exciting. You can't fast forward to the end to find out the result. You know, you've got to figure it out exactly the same time as we get the information. I think that's what makes it just brilliantly theatrical.
Do you find that different audiences react in different ways to various, you know, reveals or gas moments?
It's the great thing about touring, I think, and you know, we've done, like Joe said, I mean, 160 odd shows or whatever, you know, and I think every night an audience is different, and then every town an audience is different, every city an audience is different in terms of what they respond to, what they connect with. I sometimes feel like in terms of even just like the characters they're rooting for can be completely different, and that's one of the joys. I think you just get such a you know, it's part and parcel of theatre anyway, but particularly touring theatre, because we go to so many different places and each space has a different feel depending on its size and the energy that people bring. Yeah, we've had, I mean, it's really interesting. The first night in every venue is like, okay, how are they reacting, you know, and it's difficult as an actor. You have to try not to overthink their reaction, because you think if you're not getting any reaction, you're like, God, they hate it, they hate us, they don't want us to be here. But that doesn't mean that at all. You know, some people genuinely are just very kind of engrossed and very concentrated. There's a lot of information in this play, so and
it's got funny bits. It's not a comedy, but it's got funny bits in it, and there's a lot that's taken directly from the book, descriptions that are from the book. Nick's really tried to keep it very true to the story itself, and interweave it where he can. So it's nice seeing like proper Sherlock Holmesians. I don't know if they have like
Sherlockians,
okay, Sherlockians, like believers, Sherlockians, like proper fans, where they recognise these parts of the story, or they are slightly ahead because they know how it ends, but they're still enjoying that part because they recognise it from things that from the book that they've read before. It was quite nerve-wracking to start with. How would, you know, Holmes fans, real big Holmes fans, enjoy this production? How would they like how it's been? Because everyone's got their favourite character, they've got their favourite person who's played that character. So yeah, it's always tricky trying to work around that and please everyone. I think we've done it. Well, maybe not everyone, but we've done it as best we can.
Yeah, we tried.
I'm pleased.
I'm sure it just sounds like such a riot. I'm just imagining all these people in the front row with like a little notebook or something, you know, or magnifying glass, you know.
Well, we've had people, you know, we don't have, you will not see me in a deerstalker. We do not have that in our production, but we do have people coming in deerstalker cape, magnifying glass, pipe, and people with notebooks writing.
A lot of moustaches. I've seen a fair few moustaches. Maybe they're back in.
You started a trend.
I'm trendsetter with my moustache.
Yeah.
You've got to remix the classics, but you know, you've got to bring back. It wasn't Movember at the time, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was Mo August.
Yes.
Mo September.
Well, you know, in the Victorian era, you know, particularly the mid-Victorian era, the bushier your beard, the bigger your beard, the more manly you were.
Oh, so I'm semi-masculine.
Yeah.
Semi-masculine.
Well, you know,
It's not quite bushy.
No,
I'll get there.
You get in there.
very Instagram ready. Watson is ready for the gram.
Yeah. You should see him tending that face.
I can't wait to try and twiddle it.
Yeah.
Like only when you're solving a mystery or being nefarious.
When you're thinking, yes.
That's my thinking moustache.
Yeah.
What do you find is the biggest challenge this time around? Do you feel like you've been able to relax into the roles now, you know, been there, done that? Or is there something about bringing it back, bringing the moustache back and everything else that surprised you or challenged you or delighted you in some way?
I think there was for me, I think I did relax a lot more actually this time around. I think the first time, as Joe was just saying about that feeling of like you're stepping into the shoes of numerous actors before and bringing to life these characters that actually a lot of people really love and connect with and want to see done well. I think that was a bit like, oh God, and overwhelming, which this time it wasn't quite as bad. I think what's been interesting about this one is Nick really wanted to explore in the play the kind of limits of their friendship, I think, and how tricky it must be for Watson to be friends with this guy, and what that must be like to be on these adventures with him. And so I think the interesting thing this time round was, what's it like if Holmes and Watson are really kind of tested?
Yeah.
And their friendship is tested. And how does, for me as Holmes, that's about how does this logical, unemotional machine feel when his best friend is kind of going, this is really like hard on me. So that's been interesting to explore, I think.
I mean, for me, the only thing I found really tricky was fitting back into the costume. I've certainly put on more weight since
we all have
since the first one.
We all have. There was a pandemic, man. There was.
Yes, there was.
I wonder how Holmes and Watson would have coped in lockdown.
They would. Well,
they probably would have killed each other.
Yeah. I think Holmes would have been. I think Holmes would have gone mad. Just that lack of a case or a lack of, being confined in that space, I think would have been.
Where would Watson have spent his time? Would he have spent his time in a Baker Street bubble or with a Mary Morstan bubble?
Baker Street, 100%.
Baker Street bubble, yeah, that's all good.
100%.
I'm just imagining, that whole couple of years would have been tough for them. I mean, I guess the closest if they made it into the Spanish flu or something, maybe they would have gone through something similar. It makes you think how we're actually so close to that time. You talked a little bit earlier, Luke, about why we're still so fascinated with the Victorian era, and I'm wondering why you feel that Holmes and Watson still resonate with us. I mean, we're talking about them in the pandemic. We're talking about them, during Movember. Why are they still so close to our hearts, do you think?
I think because they are. I think I think they're basically like the first superheroes of literature. I think you've got a dynamic duo with individually brilliant skills or powers, we might say, and that complement each other and use those powers to serve good. I think that's all just like conventionally very superhero-esque. But I also think there's just something about really it's about their friendship, isn't it? It's about their sort of, I don't know, the relationship together, which is so interesting. I think particularly what was interesting, I suppose, for even at the Victorian times is like these two like guys that just get on incredibly well and sort of just understand each other and are complete opposites and really shouldn't like each other, but just do and that I think goes to the heart of, we love a solid friendship in our lives. We have that person that is we can't be without, and I think that's at its core. You've got that in Holmes and Watson, and then when you add the mystery element and the intrigue and the all the fascinating crimes that they go through, that's just sort of additional, really. That's just like cherry on the cake stuff. I think essentially it's about these superheroes that are best friends that are fantastic.
What do you think, Joseph? Do you think that the mystery is almost like the MacGuffin that gets us in to that kind of deeper connection?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's human nature, isn't it, to build connections with people, and it's human nature to ask for help when you need it, just to communicate. And that is kind of what, sometimes infuriatingly, that is what Holmes and Watson do. And it's quite one-sided, where one person is trying to communicate and the other one holds all of the information. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's the biggest appeal, the humanistic aspect of trying to develop a friendship and have a friendship in sometimes quite difficult and trying circumstances.
And have you performed in Cardiff before, either of you? Did you come to Cardiff with the Sign of the Four, or?
No, we didn't for some
the first
reason.
time?
We went to, where did we go?
Llandudno.
Llandudno. Yeah, we went to Llandudno, but we didn't come to Cardiff. So yeah, we were really excited because the theatre's. I know of the theatre, and I know it's a beautiful theatre, and I've been to Cardiff a couple of times and had a lovely time. So we're very excited, and this is the end of our tour. After 8 months, we are concluding our tour in Cardiff. So Cardiff is getting our very last few performances, and then we're done as of Friday. So yeah.
And I've been brushing up on my Welsh. So,
Oh, Diane.
bless you. Diolch, diolch, nos da.
Ardderchog, Joseph. Well, we can't wait to welcome you to Cardiff when the show comes this week. And well, I can't wait to see in what exact ways the game will be afoot.
Absolutely.
So watch this space and can't wait to see you then.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking.